Welcome to the Why Not Podcast. I'm your host, Staff Sergeant Brendan Miller. You probably already read the title, so you know that we're here to talk about mental health. And on the Why Not Podcast, we have folks from three different tiers of the enlisted structure. We've got our junior airmen, we've got an NCO, a senior NCO, to talk about a subject. And since today's subject is about mental health, let's get this out of the way. Let's tell us who you are and how's your mental health doing.
I am Master Sergeant Cassandra Woodard. I work at the 5th Bomb Wing staff in the admin office, and I've been in 14 years, and my mental health is fantastic.
My name is Sergeant Dorian Garland, 5th Civil Engineer Squadron, and my mental health is steady. It's stable. I should say stable.
I'm Senior in Bankston. I'm with the Public Affairs. Been in like 2 years, 3 years. And my mental health is improving. We're getting to a steady space.
Good. And I am also improving. I feel like when I don't get enough sleep, I feel more pressed. But we'll talk about sleep, and we'll talk about good health and how mental health plays into all that. But what is mental health? Like, what is your interpretation of what mental health is?
Well, the easy way of thinking about it is like physical health. Like how are your organs performing, your muscles, like the physical aspects. And when you think about it, mental health is how am I like doing behavior wise, my emotions, my feelings. And you want to look at that as good or bad. It's like, are my behaviors good or are they bad? And if you have these characteristics and they're aligning more with the bad mental, that's how you can kind of scale that.
Well, that's a good way to put it. I don't know that I would put it any better way. I was going to tie it to physical health as well.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, along the same lines. Most of it's just, I see it how you internally process the world, a series of like how your thoughts and like you said, thoughts and emotions all come into play and, how you're able to be stable or if you're in a mindset to be able to take in new and exciting things. So just if you're not able to, then there could be some problems. But
Well, good mental health, poor mental health, bad mental health. I feel like people say bad mental health. Like but I feel like you can be in a poor state. It's not like necessarily, it's not good and bad, it's just something that can be worked on, something that is good right now. And I feel like if as long as you're talking about that sort of spectrum, I think it can help us gear shift to it's something that we can work on. So what kind of experiences or examples can you give us of when you've experienced good mental health and bad mental, or poor mental health?
Feel pressure.
Can anybody give me an example of a time where they were experiencing good mental health and a time where they experienced poor mental health, and what did that, what was that experience like for you? How did it manifest?
I can start off first. So for me, I was prior security forces, and a lot of times with us, depending on where you're posted, can affect for most people their mental health. I know for me, there was a lot of moments where I was basically kind of in a quote unquote solitary confinement because you're basically sitting inside of a shack for about 14 to 16 hours a day. And the whole name of the game is to basically stay awake. Better not be caught sleeping when you have to call people just to use the bathroom or get food if you forgot to bring it. I mean, they give you can walk about 60 feet away from your shack at any given time, but then you have to come right back. So a lot of that time you're just there, just thinking, staring out literally into a softball field for hours. No interaction, and God forbid if you had to work night shift. It's just minus the occasional person walking out of the flight line. That's about it. So a lot of times, I know for me, mental health was tested because you just had to find ways to keep yourself kind of sane in those moments. I've talked with folks who they're by themselves for so long, and some people are having hallucinations and things like that, just seeing weird stuff just because they're just isolated. Because if nobody occasionally checks up on you, and they might maybe once every 5 to 6 hours, give or take. That is, if they like you. If they don't, then well, we'll see you when we see you. Unless you call something over the radio. But that was such a, I think, especially for like airmen, everybody would find different ways to try to cope situations like that. And during that time as an airman, it was kind of difficult to want to go talk to mental health because back then PRP was like its own separate program instead of all security forces being inside. So we were in a PRP base, and the worst thing you could do to a cop is to basically take their weapons or make them DNA, because then you would become useless. So even if you did go and they did have to, maybe there was something wrong with you, they take you down on weapons, then you're just sitting around the squadron feeling useless. That also attacked your mental health because you're thinking, well, if I'm not there out there on the flight, that means somebody else is compensating for me. That means, I'm not part of the team. Everybody's going to look at me because, oh, you're weak. Back then, they just did not promote going to seek mental health. So I didn't for about 6.5 years. I'd just be like, oh, I'll just get over it. I just need to suck it up. All this stuff on mental health, those are just for the people who are crazy or whatever. So that would be for me some of the experiences that I went to initially. Just was not promoted as much when I was an airman, so made life kind of difficult, and it's taken a while to kind of get through the stigmatism that would come with that.
I feel like I'm hearing, you know, you were very like physically isolated, and you were like in the literal sense you were isolated. And then you were craving human connection. And then even when you felt like you wanted to do something better, or you sensed that there was something wrong, the fear of further isolation or putting somebody else in that situation is what kept you from doing anything.
Mhm.
I mean, you're talking about just bad or even good mental
I mean,
health?
it can be good because I feel like it's such a roller coaster of a time whenever you're going through like a really difficult time, when you're feeling like you're being tested. All of a sudden I can have an interaction with one of my like teammates where I was like, yeah, I've still got people in my life who can make meaningful changes for my mental state and can improve my life so much. And a little bit of, just I take the bad with the good. I understand that good times and bad times are temporary. And I try to view it that way. This too shall pass is a phrase that I try to keep in mind, a mantra that I try to live my life by.
Yeah. I will say my mental health is, I mean, obviously today I'm well and I'm doing fine. If you'd asked me yesterday, it probably would have been a different story. Like
Mm,
today's a day, right? But again, like everything's temporary. But I feel like I just passed my 2-year mark of being sober from alcohol.
mm,
And I feel like from the moment that I gave up the things that were holding me back, I was able to think more clearly for myself and my family and kind of experience life in its raw form. And so I started deliberately making a life that for myself that I didn't need to escape from with alcohol. And so my life took a huge turn as soon as I just omitted that. And then I became more active. So I'm an endurance athlete. So I'm training for long distance runnings and things like that. Like I'm trying to test my body
mm.
in ways that are good for me. And so for me, mine took a turn as soon as I started getting rid of the things that were holding me back and started doing more of the things that fuel me and give me healthy challenges to tackle. And running has become my escape. So that's my stress relief. That's where I think the clear this. That's where I don't think at all. That's where, a lot of my internal discussions with myself about the day that I've had or the day I'm about to have. Those take place there, so I can kind of leave it all out on the road or the treadmill right now in mine up because I don't run outside. That's where all that's left. And so for me, being more active and removing alcohol from my life is what helped me maintain better mental health. Like I have more better days than I do bad days. And the bad days are more so just like today was a day and nothing was going my way. And I just need to go home, read a book, go to sleep, try again tomorrow. Because again, nothing's permanent. So just sleep it off, try again tomorrow.
Yeah. I remember just before I joined the Air Force that I started getting into like endurance sports, and I was boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And just the relationship I was in did not go very well. I felt like I was out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And something about exercise makes me feel like, well, maybe I don't feel like I'm in control there, but I can control this.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped.
Right. Like the most alive I feel is when I'm taking my breath away, if that makes sense. Because like when you're running, you can't breathe, but I still
Yeah.
feel more alive then than any other time in my day for the most part. Like it's just, yeah.
I can, relate to that. I was going through some stuff earlier this year. It was pretty rough. Yeah, my actions weren't aligning with my values, so I was having an identity issue along with that because I'm like looking in the mirror, I'm like, that's not who I am. And yeah, it just got rough. I did start like drinking pretty heavily, like a lot. And I was at first I tried to get help going through military one source. And it wasn't what I wanted. I feel like I'm a pretty self-aware individual. Like I understand why I do things and like all that's all talk. I'm like, here's this problem. Here's why I think it's happening. And then the counselor's just there like, well, you've done my work. You're doing great. And I'm just like, well, this isn't helping. And so then I stopped doing that. That wasn't working. Did that for a couple months and still wasn't going good. I went to like the walk-in clinic, I think, and they're like, have you tried not worrying about it? And I was like, I'm leave. And so after that, I just quit trying to like get help. And so it just went down. And I was a little too honest on my MHA. And then I got enrolled in ADAPT and like the actual like mental health clinic. And I've been doing really good. It's been getting better. I think also like along with the exercise, because I've been very committed to exercising and making myself feel healthy. I think I started really getting into it like October. I lost 30 pounds and recently gained 10 pounds because I'm on a bulk now. Trying intentionally gaining weight after never ever doing that is really weird, but I'm feeling really good. And just doing that every day is like, it's helping me feel like accomplished. Like I'm doing something. Like I could be tired, but I did that. And it's also a great way to like get out my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of aggression and anger that I feel. And so like when I'm in the gym, just putting it out into a healthy outlet and then look in the mirror like, great.
Yeah. Like, I feel good. Well, I want to point out a couple of things is that for one thing, you were shopping around. You're like, what's the resource that's going to work for me? And like like a person might have started on military one source and they found that very helpful and maybe that's all they needed, but you kept looking. And I know you said that you were like a little too honest on your MHA, but those mental health assessments, I mean, obviously it ended up helping you.
Yeah, I did it
So,
on purpose. I need help.
yeah, good. That's exactly what we need.
I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. I'm proud of, all of us for being able to see it. Stigmas. I know that they exist, and you mentioned it earlier that there are stigmas where if I go get help, it's going to. I think the biggest one is like end my career. Like I'm gonna leave the military because they won't want to retain somebody who has mental health issues. But what's the reality that you've seen? And if a stigma exists, what is the reason that you are thinking that it actually does exist?
So as far as stigmas, it probably, I mean, because the military culture is we're tough, we get things done, no questions asked, and you just move on. And it's almost kind of the assumption that we act robotically, and robots don't have feelings. Humans do, and we're humans. And so, I mean, I think people fear showing weakness and they see mental health as a weakness when the reverse of that is it's actually a strength because you're self-aware of your needs. And that's how I view it. I think everybody goes through mental health things in their life. To say that they never have, I would bet is maybe not true because nobody's life is perfect and we all go through things. So I I think the military is moving in the right direction when it comes to accepting this. I mean, I can't speak for all career fields, so let me not go there, but I just I just view it as a strength to admit that you need help because to admit that you need help with certain things means that you can go get that help and then you can in turn start giving back to the mission. So I would see it as a good thing to start supporting those that are admitting that I need a little bit of help because they're self-aware and then they're going to come back better and stronger. Hopefully, right? I mean, everybody's different. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I think you did. But stigmas like people think it's going to end their ability to like do their job, or how, how does it actually manifest in reality? Because I think people's fears is that it like ends their career in the Air Force. But what's the reality for?
I I would think that, and I think a big problem of that because there's such a stigmatism is because initially it just wasn't promoted as as well as it needed to be. I think we're getting to a better spot now, but you have people who've been in for 10, 12 plus years, and usually what tends to happen with stuff like that is that for most people they get one of the dorm lawyers who basically are feeding them this information about this airman, and he had this and this and he got kicked out. They don't know the details. Like when little rumors or little tidbits come out and that stuff starts spreading, that's how most of that stuff started, in my honest opinion, is because one day this person's here, the next day or a couple months from now, oh, where is such and such? Oh, well, he had to go to mental health and now apparently he's been hospitalized and under observation. And then, well, you don't want that to happen. Or, because, people are saying the wrong things, not knowing all the facts, then you get a lot of misinformation. And that's, in my opinion, is where a lot of that stuff started from because all that misinformation piles up and then people start treating that stuff as reality. And that becomes a fact that really isn't true. So they're believing lies because everybody's just trying to spread things about other people. And that's what I feel that the stigmatism comes from. Um, they're afraid to ask those questions because they are concerned that, like you said, it would lead to something worse. So they withhold all that stuff because of what someone else has mainly told them, not because they seeked out the information themselves. Whether that's another airman or maybe an NCO who might be a little bit more, I would say, jaded or disgruntled about how things are going and they're just trying to spout off on some stuff, or you hear people trying to quote unquote abuse the system, being like, oh, well, this person needed a mental health day. And that's why they're not here. Oh, Johnny can't handle his workload or whatever. So it's like I said, it's a series of things, but I look at it as just being caught up between misinformation and probably just animosity towards other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I like waited a long time to actually go into mental health because I didn't want like a record of like a medical record that I'm scared that they might find something, and that it'll put my career like on the line. And I learned that it's one of the types of bipolar and schizophrenia that's you're gone. But other things like it can be worked around. You can get help for it, or like if it is a serious thing, then you can get out, but I'm still here, so yay. Um, and like what you were talking about with getting de-armed, was that what you were talking
Yeah,
about?
DNA.
Yay. Like there are those things that can persuade somebody to not look for it. Like I can't fly anymore because of the treatment I'm getting, which sucks. And I maybe might not have done that if I'd known because I like to get money. But like
This is
it's
the honesty.
I love the
Yeah,
honesty.
this is good.
yeah, there are things that suck about it, but it's not like an automatic like you're getting kicked out if you ask for help, or it's gonna cause like major changes to your career. And just think about the help that you could get overall. You're gonna be better in your career, and you'll probably go a little bit farther.
But you
And
can get the rights to get back to flying, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Eventually. So,
It's just no.
yeah, I know.
darn, yeah, you take a detour, and I like to think of it that way. If you're going to mental health appointments, or you're going to see a counselor like an MFLAC, or you go to True North, or any reason that you or any person that you might see, that's just a detour. You're still getting to your destination.
Mhm.
You're just, maybe you're taking a little longer to get there, and that detour might actually be the shortcut you needed in
Mhm.
order to reach your goal.
Yeah.
So I try to think of it that way. Like finding help for people, and especially noticing that people are needing help. How do you help people who need help and who are seeking it, and maybe people who are not seeking it? Was that, how do you identify it, and how do you get them to where they need to go?
Well, you first got to know your people, I believe, especially for the ones who it's not as obvious, who carry themselves well. So, so, um, knowing your people, I think we spoke about this in previous podcasts of feedback and getting to know where your airman's norm is, where their steady state is, so that you can tell when there's a dip and it's more obvious. If you don't know your people, you're not going to notice those things. And that also goes with finding them the correct resource for them. Like I've had an airman before that was struggling, and I suggested a chaplain, and he was anti that. And there's nothing against not wanting to go to a chaplain. It's just not the route he wanted to go. He wasn't comfortable with that. And so that was more learning moments of like, okay, well, they tell you as leaders, like, here's your resources, offer them all up, right? But should you? Because if you don't, if you know your people, then maybe you know this individual is probably not going to take to a chaplain. Maybe I get them to mental health clinic or first sergeant or anybody who's there to as an outlet that can help them. So I think it starts by knowing your people first and foremost, and then directing help from there.
I I think the first time I ever dealt with an airman who they were kind of at the end of their rope, and told an NCO in our squadron, it's like, yeah, I'm thinking of committing suicide, and said that right after their mental health appointment, and said, yeah, I had mentioned it to the counselor, but I don't think they quite understood. And that NCO thankfully was like, well, then I'm not leaving you, and we're going to go get you help. And then we got them in the clinic, and then we did 24-hour watch for this airman, and the lieutenant colonel commander was there more than anybody. And we have to demonstrate for people that we care, that we're going to be there when they're going through the hardest time in their life, and that when they say something, when they're saying that they're going through that hard time, that we will physically be there. And I remember this airman told me that they thought that I had my life together. As they were like, you're just such an exemplary NCO. I think you have it all together. And I wish that was true.
Would be nice.
Yeah. And I feel bad because we had a story that was like the exact opposite. We had a incident way back in Offutt where somebody was saying that they were having those ideations and things like that, but that person, flight chief at the time, just didn't didn't take it as seriously and sent them out to post. So he's sitting out there, and he had called a patrol over. Fortunately, they didn't get there in time because the member ended up taking his own life right there on duty. So it was kind of like an impact for everybody. And even with me personally, I would hear that story, and then they would put us out in the shack. I mean, that they did end up taking out, but they still put another shack in the same spot. So we're all like, I mean, someone's gonna come get me, if I fall asleep. But things like this is just so heavy. I remember as an airman one time, there was an article in the Air Force Times, and they were talking about career fields within the Air Force that had high, suicide rates and things like that. And they, mentioned security forces and maintenance as being like the two highest ones. And I remember I was briefing that to people in our flight, And I had noticed that one of the NCOs who worked with us wasn't around, and I asked the question, what happened? They're like, I don't know, we haven't seen him in a couple of weeks. We're trying to figure that out ourselves. And then, needless to say, we found out that um, he ended up taking his own life. And it was just kind of eerie because I remember not too long ago, him and I were working together on a patrol, and I'm like teaching him and about things with like the job and getting him all quizzed up. And I had never noticed if he was, you know, feeling that way. So when I had gotten the news about it, I felt, extremely guilty about it because I thought that, I wish there was something, I wish he could have heard that briefing that I got, that I gave to everybody else on our flight. Maybe that would have changed some things, but so it kind of, so when things like that happen with mental health and stuff, it always kind of affects me.
Yeah.
Um,
That guilty feeling, that's hard. Sometimes short of a person telling you that they're going to do it, you might not be able to notice the signs. So, it's hard not to beat yourself up, especially when you work next to somebody and you say what if, but we we don't control other people's lives. I might be the NCO to an airman, but that doesn't mean that I can I can control their life. I can just try my best to notice the signs and then try to intervene when I see something's going wrong.
Mhm.
And I think that's the best we can all do.
I'd like to make a plug if I could.
Yeah.
I just think it's important to remember that big A airmen suffer from mental health issues, right? We sometimes get centered around a certain tier, and that we forget that our leaders also have full lives going on.
Yeah.
Our commanders and our SELs and our, it's lonely at the top is what they say, and it's almost real because I don't know how often our chiefs and our O6s or O5s are asked, "How are you doing?" You know?
Yeah.
And especially at bases like this, like I try to make it be very deliberate with who I'm asking, like, "Hey, how are you?" And people say that in passing as kind of like a hello,
But yeah.
um, which is frustrating because, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not gonna lie, but if you think about it, like you could be passing somebody who is struggling, and you're like, "Hey, how are you?" You just keep walking, where you could have had an opportunity
Mm.
to like really ask, "No, how are you?" I'm asking. I want to know. And sure, leaders probably will not unleash all their problems on a staff sergeant or an airman, just the awareness that people at all levels struggle and are going through things as well. Um, Leaders aren't susceptible to the problems of life, to mental health issues. They carry the weight of the world on them sometimes, it's very fragile. So I just wanted to make sure that that was captured.
Yeah.
And so that's understood, that it is big A airmen that struggles with this, and that it's okay to look out for your leaders too. Sometimes it takes them off guard when you're like, "No, how are you?" Because they're just not normally used to somebody walking up to them asking that.
Yeah. Turning around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's
Kind of.
normally on them to ask you how you're doing and get the feel of how you're doing, but you can also do the other way around.
Yeah. Kind of like, I don't want to make it sound like, our senior leaders are our parents, but trying to remember that my parents, like, I need to ask how they're doing because I've grown up and they're always, directing attention towards me. Turn that back around. They're a full human being that existed before I did.
Hmm.
So what, how can we invest in people and make sure that we, for the time period that we are in each other's lives, that they know that they matter to us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Connectedness, I think this is the last thing that I'm going to talk about before we talk about like some resources that people could use. But how do you stay connected with people, and how do you make sure that you're not alone so that somebody can see if you're off, and how do you make sure that you're staying connected with people so that you know that they're not off?
Stay engaged. Get to know your people. Realize that yes, there's a job that we all have to do, but they have whole lives behind or underneath the uniform too. Um, Care and like really care. Be deliberate about it. The kind of what, like I just said, like how are you in passing, and then just but keep going on about your day. Actually caring, taking the time, sitting aside, and hearing them out if they've got things going on, and be available and be vigilant.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear like from your perspective because you're like the youngest one in here, and I'm always curious to see how the younger generation are able to connect because it seems so different from the
Different, yeah.
outside.
I used to just walk around like
And
the
say
dorm,
hi.
airman dorms, and be like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And then I wouldn't leave them alone until they had friends.
Right?
Yeah,
I can't do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
No, I struggle a lot socially and to do that because I'm also about challenges and improvements. I'll put myself in really uncomfortable situations. Like I suck at basketball, so I joined the basketball team. And for like the first year, I didn't say anything to anybody. I just was there and sucked. I just recently started like making friends and talking to people. And so just putting myself out there in situations where I'm like forced to interact with people, that's how I stay connected. Also coming to work like every single day. We have some, hey, how are you doing today? If I was quiet one day, because I guess I'm super talkative. Um,
Surprise.
I feel like that's a job somewhere.
I don't know. Who could it be at?
No, like I'll be quiet one day and they're like, "Hey, are you okay? You were really quiet yesterday." It's like so just literally just showing up to work. I'm really grateful that I got leadership that cares about me. Yeah. Also like hopping on a video game, playing with my friends back home, staying connected virtually.
yeah. Because I mean, that's what I notice sometimes, and it's just I don't know. I talk like as if I'm like super old, but I mean, I always consider myself like I mean, I'm a millennial if you look at generation wise. So I still remember a time before smartphones and when MTV used to play music videos and stuff. So
You're getting crustier, but
I know.
I know I'm really dating myself here, but it's just unique because I feel like like you said that socialness really isn't there, and it really does make me wonder like from a mental health perspective, like if you grew up in your childhood with so much technology, with technology and things like that. I mean, people are still, they're going out there still doing things as a group, but sometimes you still get that sense that they're still kind of attached to our technological advances. So I'm always curious just to see from y'all's if like you said, do people even hang out in the dorm rooms anymore? Or
Relic
every
Siege?
dorm party.
yeah, every time I walk in there, it's very quiet. So I just imagine everybody just goes to their room and they just stay there.
They're all being proper. That's what they're,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I imagine they're all reading the PDGs and everything.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good question, though.
and
What do different generations do to stay connected?
Yeah.
I stay connected by disconnecting.
More
Ah.
to come on that one, probably.
Yeah.
Let's finally sum this all up with resources. I think I might have used every single one by this point, and because I similarly wanted to go shopping, see what's the most effective thing that helped me stay resilient and mentally healthy. And what are some of the ones that you've used or you think that people should know about?
I've used Military One Source before and was it 12 sessions with a off-base provider. I think they pay for 12 a year or something like that, once a month, ideally. But I was in a spot to where I think I used the 12 in like a 3-month span. And so then I had to pay the rest of the time. So, yeah, I used Military One Source is the one that I've used.
Yeah. Military one source. It was nice because it doesn't go on your record and you don't have to pay for it. And if you change the subject, then the 12 restarts. So
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
they got
That's
you
a
on that
hack.
one because you can be taught. I'm sad because of my childhood. That's a broad concept. So then you can just be like, oh, this one part, this one specific part. We're changing the subject here.
Dang.
Yeah, you can be tricky.
Did
like that.
you know?
Get in the comments. Tell us ways that you can help people out. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But only known.
Military one source. True. I have not used True North, but I have a friend who uses that. I'm currently in the mental health clinic right now and using ADAP, which is the alcohol and drug prevention treatment. And then I forgot the other one that I used, but it was just like walk-in. It was like less serious. It's like the mental health clinic is like the last stop before like being like hospitalized. It was the one below that. I was like, that sucks.
You say it sucks.
For me, it didn't work for
yeah.
me.
We think you guys are great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
If you're
sorry.
listening.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No. Like I've used, chapel resources. Like I said, relatively spiritual, so I had church and things like that. But one kind of unique thing that's gonna happen since I've been here is something that I've given a lot more credits to is finding things that are artistic in a way. I think sometimes what helps is learning like a lot of people like do like the physical things and stuff like that, but there's other things like in I think like artistically that people could possibly tap into as well, because that could also find be a way to relieve a lot of mental stress. I know for me, something that I've gotten into was stuff like theater and expressing myself in that way, being on the stage, and it's allowed me to create a new community, a new group of people, learn new skills, be able to perform something in front of an audience, and it has been very remarkable in that sense. Just because I'm able to express myself in a different avenue that I've never done before. And the things that kind of does to you mentally is, something else as well. So I would also encourage people to, find something artistic as well. And you don't have to be like a Picasso or a Denzel Washington at it, but just,
But you could.
yeah, you never know. It could be an unlocked, talent or ability that you have. I recently, we had a guy in our unit. I kind of encouraged him to try something different, and he, went and tried theater for the first time, and people were ranting and raving about him. Never done it before. Never know it by looking at him, but there's so many good things that came out of it. He got exposed. I think he currently has a girlfriend now and everything. So he's just, I was like, just that one
So
little
get a hobby.
suggestion.
So get a hobby.
And
That's
get
what,
a-
that's a
get a
good
life.
point. That's what I was gonna say. Do things that that speak to who you are outside of this uniform, I think is another good resource, because you are a whole person outside of this. Like there's a whole other persona to you, and other things fuel your soul than just this uniform. I think that also helps mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? Anything we didn't discuss that you want to get on the mic before we close out?
We mentioned chaplain and what else was there? There's another resource.
I think we hit the chaplain. First
First
sergeants.
sergeant.
First
Yeah,
sergeants are
the first
great
sergeants are
resources.
Great. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you are ours. So,
Yes.
Wow.
yeah. Obviously, a first sergeant has like a whole breadth of experience. I mean,
Yeah. Yep. Yes. Yeah, first sergeants for sure. I think are sometimes our unsung heroes of any unit sometimes. Shout out to all my first sergeants.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank all of you for being here today. This is clearly, heavy subject material, and thank you for listening. If you or someone you know is going through a tough time, you are in a poor state mentally, it lets you just know that you're not alone, and that at least the people in this room are thinking about taking care of you. And use these resources we've talked about. We've got plenty out there, and we just want to make sure you're okay. So please do utilize them, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much. We did it.